a neurophysiological perspective over to her. Um, Alisa is a neuroscientist, medical doctor, and an entrepreneur with over 8 years of experience in clinical medicine and a strong foundation in biomed tech innovation. With a proven track record in translating scientific research into practical applications, she co founded a post stroke rehabilitation startup that completed human trials. Her expertise spans both academia and entrepreneurship, demonstrating a unique ability to bridge the gap between groundbreaking research and real world impact. Alisa's academic contributions have been recognized globally, currently pursuing a PhD in life sciences at the Skolvo, Skolkova Institute of Science. Is that right, Alisa? And technology Skoltech. Alisa is engaged in cutting edge research while contributing to the advancement of neurobiology and biomedicine. With deep expertise in 0 to 1 startup development and a commitment to improving healthcare through technology, Elisa is dedicated to driving innovation and fostering interdisciplinary collaboration in the field of biomedical technology. Her journey from clinical medicine to founding a startup in the biomedical field showcases her versatility and commitment to translating scientific knowledge into practical solutions. Welcome, Elisa, and the stage is all yours. Go ahead and start your presentation.
Ananya, thank you for your kind introduction. I was just stunned by this opportunity to bring some value today. It's a big honor for me. So I will share my screen and start presenting. So hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here today. And my professional journey started around 10 years ago when my family faced a major shock, a stroke, an event that can occur in 1 in 4 people. And that inspired me to become a medical doctor and neuroscientist and a caregiver. This is the reason why I would like to talk today about stress and how to manage stress as a woman to live longer and more happily. So I will walk you through a neurophysiological perspective of stress, and I would like to start from the basics. And the basics are basically what is stress and how it works in our body. So stress is induced by the external stimuli, and this stimuli is new to us. So while we are learning, while we are facing a new environmental system, let's say, we will experience stress, and stress is not a bad thing to experience. It helps us to focus, it helps us to learn and to become a better version of ourselves in terms of neurophysiology. So how does it work? Basically, the first step is that brain detects stress and initiates the response. It leads to the hormonal axis activation. And the first part of this axis, it's actually hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis with a feedback loop. That hypothalamus releases corticotropin-releasing hormone that leads to activation of the second hormone, and later on that leads to the production of the cortisol itself, which is produced by adrenal glands. And of course, in here we have a feedback regulation. As soon as these hormones are produced and released, we have a regulatory system that helps to stop this process. So we need to remember that as women, we are different from men, and men are different from women. And we need to focus on that to know how to navigate stress in a better way. And statistics shows, and recent and not recent articles, that women are twice as likely as men to experience stress-related disorders, such as anxiety and depression, And the axis that I showed on the previous slide, like this system of how stress works, this axis regulating stress responses is massively influenced by estrogen and progesterone, which lead us to sex-specific stress reactivity. So let's get into that. So what I would like to discuss today is the estrogen itself and how it affects these axes and what it does. So estrogen basically modulates this HPA axis, which governs the body's stress response. And this hormone enhances the sensitivity of this axis to the stress via releasing hormones that are a part of this axis. And for example, during the follicular phase of the menstrual cycle, when the levels of estrogen are high, women show high-tendent cortisol responses to stress compared to the similar stimulus for example, in a luteal phase. On the left part of the slide, you can see the scheme. It's nothing complicated, so we can move forward. The second thing to mention is the progesterone and its effects on the women's body and the stress response. So we have such thing as GABAergic activity. It sounds weird, but actually it's not weird. So GABA is like the pioneer in our nervous system. It's a neurotransmitter which helps basically to reduce the activity of the brain. And it works on a molecular level. We have a neurotransmitter which binds to the receptor, and that leads to the increased activity of the neuron. So progesterone and its metabolites influence stress responses by modulating this activity. And for example, a metabolite of progesterone enhances the activity of GABA receptors, promoting inhibitory signaling and reducing anxiety. At the same time, abrupt withdrawal of progesterone, for example, during the premenstrual phase, can lead to increased stress sensitivity, which is the most common symptom of premenstrual syndrome. The next thing to discuss, and I think it's one of the most essential parts of my seminar today, is oxytocin and social buffering. As soon as I'm honored to be the part of Women in Tech Alliance, and it correlates with the topic. So basically, oxytocin, which is often called as a bonding hormone, and this hormone plays a critical role in stress resilience, particularly in women. And the thing is that oxytocin is released in response to social interactions, and it promotes feelings of trust. And why is that interesting? Simply because it reduces amygdala activity. Amygdala is like a tiny, tiny part of our brain, which is in charge of emotions and also in charge of fight or flight response. So this part is activating during stress, and based on your neurophysiological profile, I will name it like that, you will flight in response to something, to a conflict, for example. You will fight or simply like go away or freeze. And the estrogen in women enhances oxytocin receptor expression, which of course helps to oxytocin to bind the receptor and to basically do what it does. And it makes women more responsive to its stress buffering effects. Also, I will touch briefly on the chronic stress and cortisol. And the thing is that not that a regular and accurate stress is a good thing. It helps us to navigate our lives, to be present, to be focused, to be on the top of our performance. But when we experience a chronic stress condition, that can lead to detrimental effects on the brain structure and the brain function. For example, a recently published paper, it was a paper on mice, not on people for sure, showed that
Alisa, we lost your audio.
for glucose, for example, to these tiny cells help neurons to navigate their axons, to bind with other neurons, etc. And recent studies showed that chronic stress leads to transformation of these tiny cells, and from the state of helping, they become toxic for neurons, and that leads to neuron death and higher risk of dementia. So also prolonged cortisol exposure reduces hippocampal volume and impairing memory and emotional regulation. Because basically, hippocampus is also a tiny structure in our brain that is in charge of creating new memories. So without that, learning and succeeding in your career and building new skills is simply impossible. So chronic stress affects overall mental health, and I do believe it's not something new. So to sum up and to move to the next part, we need to understand that estrogen, progesterone, and all the hormones work in a complicated way together with cortisol to influence stress responses. And none of these hormones in women's body do not act in isolation. And interactions of all these hormones can amplify to mitigate stress effects. So the next part will be about the topic of, so basically what is different in our body than in men's. And for sure, we have some gender-specific stress responses. And for example, I will touch briefly all the menstrual cycle phases, but I will mention right now about the follicular phase. That in that phase, we have a high estrogen levels, and these high levels of estrogen affects our peripheral neural system. And part of our peripheral neural system is a parasympathetic one. And what does it mean? What does it actually does? So the parasympathetic system helps us, for example, to digest food. If we will compare that to the world of animals, so sympathetic system is when you try to find food, and parasympathetic it's when you are in a safe place and you try to digest, to get rest, etc. And the thing is that during follicular phase, women tend to response, which means not to escalate conflict, though to care for a child and to seek help from the community. At the same time, men, for example, are more tend to be in a fight or flight mode, which of course has on their work productivity, navigating conflicts, etc. And also, women show greater limbic system activation. And the limbic system, it's like the one of the oldest part of our brain, and it's in charge of multiple things. But the most essential for us right now, it's emotion and like emotional regulation. And it basically means that during some phases of the cycle, comparing to men, women show higher emotional reactivity. So what to do and how to navigate that? I do believe that we need to pay attention to process of optimization our well-being through the menstrual cycle. And I would like to show some tips and explain why and how. So the first thing is we need to understand the cycle and we need to take that into account because statistics don't lie and we need to pay attention to that. So the menstrual cycle consists of 4 phases: menstrual, follicular, ovulatory, and luteal. And while being aware of these phases, we can navigate how to exercise, what is better to eat, and how to structure the process of our work or home environment. So the first phase of menstrual cycle is menstrual phase, which is from first day to the 5th one, something like that. And during that phase, we experience low estrogen and low progesterone levels. I've explained earlier how it affects the whole stress response system. And that leads to simply higher stress sensitivity. And we can navigate that by focusing on gentle exercises like yoga and walking. And we also shall prioritize iron and magnesium-rich foods because magnesium is also in charge of letting neurons to rest, basically. So while doing that, we need to remember to be compassionate and to rest. And at least to try probably work from home, but of course it is not possible. So walking and meditating works, and it's not just lifestyle tips, it is all scientifically based. So let us go to the next phase, which is follicular one, and it's day 6 to 14th of the cycle. And that phase is basically the best phase to perform. As soon as we have here high levels of estrogen, we have high energy and good mood. We're still a bit sensitive to stress, but at the same time, it is a perfect moment to participate in high high intensity workouts, for example, like lifting, heavy lifting, or long distance running, etc. As soon as without exercising, I can't see how to navigate stress in the world where we live. And we also need to focus on nutrition, and we need to emphasize protein-rich foods like Greek yogurts, fish, meats, and many other options. And probably also beans, like complex carbohydrates. And from my experience, follicular phase is a perfect time to debrief. It's a perfect time to build something new, it's a perfect time to start new project because your energy is high, you are less sensitive to stress, even comparing to men. So it's a time to perform, and we need to remember that. The next phase is ovulatory one, and in that phase, women are tend to be in a moderate stress sensitivity, but we still have a lot of social energy and collaboration. So from a professional perspective, it's a perfect time for networking, for building new relationships, and simply to be in focus. So the next phase is luteal one. It's 18th, 28th day. And in that phase, we experience a higher level of progesterone, and that leads to the higher mood sensitivity. It's a perfect time to be focused on exercising, probably not heavy lifting, because heavy lifting, when you lift weights or when you experience high intensity workouts, you need to be resistant to stress, because every high activity, which is uncommon for your body, leads to the stress response. So here in that phase of the cycle, exercising focus needs to be there, but we need to be more accurate with the amount of hours and with the intensity. And thing worth mentioning, in that phase of the cycle, I prefer to consume vitamins B and magnesium oxide, especially before the bedtime. It helps me to sleep better and to simply be in a good mood the next day. And I wanted to touch one topic too, because we can talk about general things such as hormonal regulation and stress management. But from my personal perspective, the thing to keep in your mind is such a phenomenon as a neuroplasticity. And why I think that is essential, because basically the level of neuroplasticity, how good you can live your life. And in case neuroplasticity sounds a bit not understandable, it's actually pretty simple concept. And from if we will have a microscope and we will have this opportunity to just sit and via microscope observe how brain works, and if we wanted to, for example, to observe this neuroplasticity process, we would see something like, for example, one big neuron that excites because of something, okay? Because we had a sort of stimuli that leads to excitement of this neuron, and a huge neuronal net around this neuron, okay? And brain plasticity, it's like observing that this neuron teaches other neurons the same things that he is teaching himself at this point. So it's like a neuronal net that excites, but not on the same level. Yeah, so I will explain it like that. And the brain plasticity basically allows allows us to be adaptive and responsive to stress. And for example, there's such misconception that we do not have any neurons when we are adults, but that is not correct. in adulthood, we still experience neurogenesis, which means the appearance of new neurons in our brain from the stem cells. And these stem cells are located in the hippocampus. Here you can see it on the left part of the slide. These tiny red things is hippocampus. And it's the place where all neuronal stem cells are located. And the thing is that using simple techniques such as exercising, mindfulness practices can increase neurogenesis. So basically, the length of the life of our brain can be affected by us. And I find it quite amazing because it's not just habits, it's not just a lifestyle. It's like not rocket science probably, but still you can observe this in people who simply try to navigate their lives in a healthy way, and they have new neurons afterwards. I think it's amazing. Anyways, also cognitive behavioral therapy can help and with stress reduction. And after stress reduction, we can observe also some changes in our prefrontal cortex. And prefrontal cortex helps us to basically navigate everything, to regulate our emotions, to make right decisions, to be present, to set long-term goals. So I think we need to understand what's next, because it's good to know about things. But from my perspective, we need to do something too. And I think that engaging with communities for support and shared experience is an amazing way to deal with that, because supportive communities, especially in women, especially taking into the account that we have some hormonal challenges sometimes, or not challenges, though something that we need to navigate. And communities help with that, help with bonding, help with support. And I do believe that women need to support each other to be happy and to be successful, not only on a neurophysiological level, though on a societal. And yeah, and we need to share our knowledge to help others understand the cycles. And we need to commit, like, commitment matters. We need to commit to ongoing well-being through cycle awareness. I've been through different circumstances during my career. I was caring for patients. I was living in the hospital. I was operating. Many things were going in my life. And through that, I've realized that stress is the price that we pay for a life that is full of value, full of true value, and full of meaning. And with the right tools, I do believe that we can transform that process into strength, into resilience, and into joy, and not just into factor that can disrupt our life. So thank you so much for the attention. I wanted to say again how grateful I am to be here today. I was wondering if I can bring some value, and I hope I did. So thank you for hosting me. It was a big pleasure for me.
Thank you so much, Elisa. That was a wonderful overview on the neurological, neurophysiological perspective on stress. And then you also gave us action items for stress management that we can take away and practice in our daily lives. So thank you so much for that. Closing it off today, thank you all for joining us, and we warmly invite everybody to become a part of the EWTA community. To give a brief about what EWTA is, it's a global platform operating in 20